Hey, welcome everybody that has joined early. Really happy to have you all here today. Can't speak this morning. We had a ton of registrants, so we're probably going to wait another 5 or 6 minutes till we get started. I'd like to get the chat going if you don't mind. So if you don't mind opening up the Zoom chat panel, and why don't you share where you're calling in from? Always like to know what part of the world or part of the country you're in. Make sure you set your to option to everyone so everybody can see where you are. Denver, welcome. DW from Denver. Welcome, Matt from Oregon. I'm not sure I've ever been to Oregon, sadly. Ooh, we have a Portugal and Hawaii. I'm in Wilmington, Delaware, myself. Somerset, UK. Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Rinith from the United Arab Emirates. Another AJ from Dubai. And, oh, Rinith, you're on twice from Dubai. That's where you are in the UAE. So welcome, everybody. Coastal Mississippi. It's still nice and warm down there. Welcome, Keith from Ohio. Where in Ohio are you? Let me see. I want to make sure my fellow presenter is here. There you are, Brian. I see that you're on now. Let me know if you have any issues. I'm not going to be on video, but you can, of course, be on video if you want. So I'm not sharing yet, but just give me a second and then I'll put up the presentation. I assume most folks are MSPs, but if you're here and you're using the products in our portfolio for internal IT use, that's great too. So once you've gone ahead and told everybody where you're calling from, oh, welcome Pablo from Brazil and Marcos from Uruguay, Sydney, Ohio. Keith is from, I don't know where Sydney is. I don't know, maybe Brian, our CEO, knows since he knows Ohio a little bit better. Welcome, Mexico. Hector from Mexico. Excellent. Happy to have everybody here. For those of you that have joined in the last few minutes, we're all on chat. So please join us in chat and let us know where you're calling in from. We have people from all over the world right now, except for Australia. Oh, welcome, Leek from Nigeria. And Grace from Nigeria. Daniel, welcome. Chicago, great city. Erie, Pennsylvania, pretty close to me. Tyler, welcome. I'll get this presentation up in just a second. And then we'll get started probably in about 3 minutes. We'll see what the joining looks like from the late joiners. We won't let them hold us up, but we'll give everybody a second to join in. All right, so we have a lot of people on the call. Let me get this presentation up. I get this right. Everybody should be able to see the presentation now. If somebody doesn't see it, go ahead, tell me in chat. Usually I'd use chat for any Q&A, but given the number of people that are going to be calling in, we're already about 60. What I'll recommend is feel free to chat with each other. Most of you are probably customers of MSP360 and are probably using our managed backup product. If you want to share your experience with anyone on chat, please do. If you have any particular questions, though, I would ask that you use the Q&A panel. Otherwise, I'm liable to miss them as the chat scrolls through. Mauricio, welcome. I don't see where you're calling in from, but glad to have you here. Welcome, Wes from Los Angeles, and Samuel from San Francisco, and Miguel also from Mexico. So welcome, everybody. If you're just joining, see, the 15 people have joined in. We're in chat right now, so get into chat, change the to option to everyone. Let us know where you're calling in from. get the conversation going. I'm going to have a lot of information to tell everyone over the next hour. And if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A panel for specific questions. Welcome, Himansu from New Jersey. I love New Jersey. Our first Canadian. Welcome, Colin from, just scrolled past, I didn't see. Were you from Mulmer, Ontario? I don't know where Mulmer is, but welcome. Welcome, Kansas City. Andre from Kansas City. Is it Amrit from Toronto? Kirk, great name, big Star Trek fan, so love your name. Kirk from Illinois. Ken, okay, welcome everybody. So do a quick introduction. I'm David Gugick. I'm the VP of Product Management at MSP360. I'm gonna walk everybody through today some of the new features that we released in Managed Backup, mostly around our new backup format, and also talk quickly about a couple of the products that are in our portfolio that you might not be aware of, or maybe you are and wanted to learn a little bit more about. I'm here with Brian Helwig, my CEO, so I'll let Brian say hello.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. We're almost pushing, what are we at, about 300 registrations, and we're pushing almost 100 now. I mean, New Zealand, like,
oh yeah, there's Peter from New Zealand. I mean, welcome.
Peter, yeah, Scotland. I mean, this is awesome. Thank you guys very much for making the time to learn about what we've been working on here in 2021 with MSP360.
Yeah, okay, great. So welcome, Jay, from New York City, my hometown, Queens born, Flushing, although I did grow up mostly in Spring Valley. I was born in Queens. So welcome everybody. Let's get started because we have a lot of things to cover and I want to make sure I don't run out of time, and I certainly want to be cognizant of everybody's time today and not run over. We're going to mostly be talking about the new backup format. You probably heard it mentioned. That's what we call it, the new backup format. And we designed it because we wanted to provide a lot of new advanced features for our customers. And so let me tell you just at a very high level why we think it's important to you, our customer. One of the biggest things is faster backups, right? Faster backups of all types. That includes file, folder, image, and VMware. We're going to go into a lot of detail about these things on the upcoming slides. Again, for those of you that have questions, and I already see them coming in, please put them in the Q&A. Brian will be looking at them. I will look at them when I get to them. If I miss your question early on, I will make sure I get to it at the end. So don't worry, your questions are safe if they're in the Q&A. One of the other things we wanted to do is make sure your restores were faster, right? So we were looking for ways to make restores much faster of really any type. We also wanted to make sure that when you were dealing with a lot of data, especially file-based data, where you were backing up, say, millions of files, that the purges of data that's no longer needed also occurred much more quickly. But we built it with the idea that we were going to introduce some really fancy new features for our customers. One of the things that's much more advanced retention options that is called GFS. We'll get into that in more detail. We wanted to give the customers the ability to protect their backups against ransomware. I hate that word ransomware because there's never any good news about it. But we have some new features around immutability with the new backup product that can help lock down your backups through cloud storage object lock technology we'll talk about. Also, make sure that your backups have integrity, right? That somebody hasn't messed with them, that something didn't go missing, that there was an accidental corruption, although it doesn't happen frequently in the cloud. But we have built-in backup integrity checks now in the product using the new backup format, as well as for those of you doing image-based backups who are rightfully concerned, will this image restore? That's something that, worries every administrator or MSP out there. Welcome, Kyle from Wichita, Kansas. We have built-in image backup restore verification that leverages Hyper-V that we'll talk about, as well as providing some inherent advances like automatic file name encryption that just come with the new backup format. And that's really designed to protect any personally identifiable information, PII, that might be in file names. And you may have been using that with our S3 support for it, but if your cloud didn't support it, you're going to get it now automatically. So how does this all work? Well, at a very high level, and I'm going to provide some links later on if you guys on the call want to dig into the details of what's really going on behind the scenes. But this is just a very high level about how the new backup format works. Backup plans, first and foremost, are completely independent from one another. So if you're running two separate backups on the same set of, say, file-based data, they will not have any interference with one another. So you can run them with separate retention to separate targets if needed without any worry, since everything is managed completely separately. Rather than uploading data at the file level, which we did for file-based backups, we are now uploading data in blocks stored in what I call archive files, although that's not the term you see in the help, but I think it's better for describing it. We bundle up multiple files or parts of files, depending on the type of backup, into much larger blocks. By doing that, we're reducing the I/O and latency considerably with cloud storage. Now, this is not something you might have noticed that much if you were backing up to fast local storage, but you might notice it on a NAS because the protocols are just not as efficient as locally attached storage. And you certainly would be noticing it if you were backing up to the cloud, because if you back up at the file level and recreate an object or maybe more than one object for each file, if you're backing up things like NTFS permissions, what you're dealing with is a lot of new object creation and object completion, uploading all the parts at the file level. And while multi-threaded I/O that we've always had in the product can help with that, this new design radically reduces that I/O. So you should see significantly improved backup speeds, but not only that, significantly improved restore speeds. We also automatically handle backup interruptions. So if those backups are interrupted for some reason, through no fault of your own, the network goes down, the machine crashes for some reason, the next time the backup runs, any unfinished archives are re-uploaded, and all the previous archives that are already up in the cloud are maintained for restore purposes. And all full backups are now maintained at the generation level. What that means is that even in the case of file backups, there is the concept of a full backup now that contains all of the files within that full backup. And we'll talk about how we make that pretty efficient. What we also do is support a bunch of new features, and that's what we're going to get into here. So I'm looking at the Q&A. We already have our first question. We're not going to get too much into pricing, but if you're on pricing, your pricing should be pretty much the same. The new backup format. Yeah, Brian.
Sorry, David. So, yeah, there is. I mean, so just to kind of address it head on, there is going to be a small price increase. We have not done a price increase in 11 years in MSP360. We've not changed the pricing of the products at all. So starting out in January, and or depending upon where you are relative to where our current MSRP is, you can see a price increase of between 3 and 5% as a general rule of thumb. And as far as the legacy licensing and file backup, it's really the file backup and is actually moved on to the new desktop backup and server backup has all been actually bundled in. It's much more robust. It's much more, we've just invested a tremendous amount into that product. And the legacy backup part it's been out for, probably about 8 years. And it's had some minor improvements, but as the technology has evolved, we're just evolving it forward with the rest of our file backup. Now, when you do work with your account manager, work with them on the price. The price is not going to jump up to the latest MSRP. A lot of you are on varying different prices depending upon what year when we introduced the license or what year you became a customer. So they will be a little bit different, but the idea is to be extremely reasonable with our approach.
Okay, I think the short version is that don't be nervous. And you can always yell at me.
That's right. Yep, don't be nervous.
Yeah, if you have
don't be nervous.
You yell at your account manager first, and then you can always yell at me. I'm happy to get any kind of feedback, good or bad, from our customers. So let's talk about the first big new feature. mostly because it's in the news just about every week for the last 2.5 years, and that's ransomware protection. I hear over and over from customers, are we going to support write once, read many, worm style storage model for our backups to prevent backups from being deleted, either accidentally, but more importantly, maliciously through some type of ransomware or malware. And so we have introduced immutable backups with the goal of that feature, which is to protect your data, to make sure that it can't be deleted. Now, if you're not familiar with, the cloud object lock technology out there, it's sometimes called worm, write once, read many. What it does is it prevents objects, and that's what they're usually called in the cloud. You can think of them as files or objects, but anything up in the cloud from being overwritten or deleted until a specific date according to the object lock. And the new backup format doesn't require this, but if you are interested in protecting your backups, you can turn on the immutability function. It's currently available for Amazon S3, and it will be coming out for Wasabi soon, and with other platforms after that. If you do have a specific need, you can always head over to the forums and let us know, or send an email through to support asking them. We'll always track customers' requests. The idea is that if you have to either meet regulatory requirements that require worm storage, or you have some concerns as an MSP, or if you're using this internally with your own data, that some malware someday may be created that could potentially get on the cloud storage and delete the backups, then this feature is designed to make that far less likely. I won't get into too much detail about the different modes that Amazon has available. They have what's called a governance mode, which is the one we're currently using, although we're evaluating the compliance mode option as a possible option in future releases as we think about it. The idea behind governance mode is that we will mark the data based on your GFS requirements that we'll talk about on the next screen as being locked down for a period of time that you indicate. And not until that time is up can the backups be removed, and we will remove them at that time. If somebody should, say, log in through an Explorer type product or the AWS management console, they will not be able to delete those files or through any APIs that we might make available. Now, the idea behind S3 governance mode is that only your AWS root user will have access to those backups. And you may ask, well, why are you using governance mode when there's something called compliance mode? Compliance mode, if you're not familiar, will lock down the objects completely until the time has expired with no ability to delete them. Well, the reason we did it this way to start is because we are working with a lot of managed service providers out there. And it may come to pass that you lose a customer. And if they have 20 terabytes worth of data in backup storage and you've locked it down using compliance mode for 3 years, that data would be in your AWS account for 3 years. And then you'd have to figure out who is going to pay for it. So we wanted to at least provide the ability by using the governance mode to allow the AWS root users to get in there and delete something before the lock is up if needed. Now, your root user is going to be a lockdown account. You're not sharing those credentials. You're creating other credentials that don't have root user privileges. So the data is locked down completely. And that's the idea behind it. So write once, read many, worm. Now, when we talk about immutability, it sits on top of our new GFS retention. GFS, you probably can look it up on the Wikipedia, stands for grandfather, father, son. It's a way of maintaining your sort of, I call it advanced retention around your full backups. And if you look at just the screenshots on the right, and I'll walk through a demo later on to show you how this looks in the management console rather than the agent itself. You can see down in the enabled GFS section that you have the option of keeping weekly backups for X number of weeks, monthly backups for X number of months, and yearly backups for X number of years. And if you enable those options and you're on Amazon S3 and are set up for immutability. And by the way, immutability is not released yet. It's available in preview right now. So you could have it enabled. If you reach out to support, we can have the engineers turn it on for you. It will be out in less than 2 weeks. I think about a week and a half for everyone. There'll be an option down there to allow immutability. And what immutability will do is lock down these full backup sets. Now, the idea is that if you look at this example over here, we're keeping 6 weekly full backups, right? So every week, we will create a new synthetic full. We'll talk about synthetics in an upcoming slide. Really a copy of that backup set. And then if you enable the immutability, that backup set's locked down until it's no longer needed. Same thing with the monthlies and the annual backups. You can set them up as you like. You don't have to use monthlies or annuals. You could just keep weekly backups. The retention option at the top is just for the data that's not a part of GFS. So if we're keeping data for, say, a month, that just means any data that's not needed after a month as a part of the GFS backup sets would be removed automatically. So we'll walk through this when we do an example. It's probably not worth trying to over-explain it right now. I know it can be a little complicated for new customers who are coming into this fresh. So feel free to ask questions in the Q&A or hit us up on the forum if you have a specific need and a specific retention requirement and you're having a little trouble understanding how best to set it up. So this is a more flexible archival strategy because everything's generation based and it's really snapshots of your data. As I mentioned, yearly, monthly, and weekly backup options. The only thing that you need to make sure you do is when you're scheduling your full backup, make sure it occurs within your shortest period. So if you're keeping weekly backups in GFS, then you want to make sure you schedule your full backup at least once a week. If you're doing only monthly, if you're not keeping the weeklies here and you're just keeping the monthlies, then you only need to schedule your full backup at a minimum once a month. And like I said, it works with the immutability that you'll see when we do the demo. So I see there's a bunch of questions coming in. I see the first questions about retention settings. I will try to explain it again if it's still confusing. Does the new backup automatically update all client desktop software? Okay, so that's a good question. So Andre, I think, is asking, well, when I move to the new backup format, what does that mean for my existing backups and my existing, IT infrastructure, or as an MSP, what's going to happen to my customers out there? So I should have probably pointed this out. So I'm glad you're asking. The legacy backup format is still there and it's not going away. Certainly not anytime soon. And some years down the line, we might decide that, we don't need it anymore, but right now it's still there. So all of your existing backups will continue to run. If you need to create new backup plans using the legacy format, it's still there and fully supported. If you do want to move to the new backup format, you'll have to create new backup plans that leverage it. And when you create your backup plans, you're going to get the choice: use the legacy format or use the new backup format. And the options for the legacy will be just as you're accustomed to. And the new backups will have the new options that you'll see when we do the demo. So it's the same client. I think it was released in the 7.2 Windows client version. That's where it's currently supported. So as long as you're on 7.2 or later, you'll have access to all of the fancy features. So does the legacy, here's a question from Samir, does the legacy file backup contain the new backup format, or do we need to? So yes, you'll need to change the new backup format. I think that's been answered. Yes, the new backup format is supported for file folder, image, and Hyper-V. So it's supported to all three of those platforms with, VMware, image, and file folder. Hyper-V is in progress right now, will be released in the near future. Will we be offering a destruction certificate when the data is destroyed? I'm not even sure what that is. So I'm just going to make a note about that, and we'll have to get back to you, Leonardo. It sounds like a great question, but I actually can't answer it, certainly without doing some research. Yes, you would have to. Well, you don't have to restore all the data and send it back to S3. Daniel's, I think, wondering what to do with the existing backups. You can leave them there for as long as you want. You can continue to, you just leave them there for however long you need them until the new backups have accommodated your retention requirements, either internally or with your customers. With the new backup format, did it increase the prerequisite for the amount of local storage? I'm not sure it's anything worth noting in a webinar. There may be some minor increases to local storage. Yes, we'll talk about deduplication. Well, we're actually on that slide right now. So the local deduplication processing happens locally, but the data needed is not that big. So you should not be running into memory requirements. There may be some additional storage requirements. We can certainly get back to you if there's anything significant, but not that I've heard from the customers. And the new backup format's been around for a number of months now. Linux does not support the new features yet. So Linux and Mac OS, which are kind of internally based on the same code platform for us, are in progress right now. So this is currently for Windows. So I apologize if you're primarily a Linux shop, but just hold out and we'll release it in the near future. Next thing I want to talk about that you get with the new backup format is client-side deduplication. So everybody's heard about deduplication. Really, the whole goal of deduplication is to eliminate processing duplicate data. That doesn't matter if the data is shared blocks within different files, or backing up the operating system, right, from an image-based backup, once a month, and worrying that, well, then I have to send all that data up there again. We do automatic client-side deduplication at the file level or at the part level, usually 1 megabyte parts if you're interested. The idea is that we see if that bit of data has already been uploaded to the cloud. If it has, we just send up a pointer to the existing data and we don't re-upload it. So that can speed up your backup significantly, especially around things like, image-based backups where you're backing up that operating system over and over versus something like a, file backup where you're just really running an incremental forever, more or less. And also it could provide more efficient backup storage because you're not storing redundant data over and over. So that's the whole goal of deduplication. It's not a new concept. It's been around a long time. SQL Server is not yet supported. Mostly because the SQL Server databases under the hood for us are in the Microsoft format. So we wanted to make sure we preserve full differential transaction log formats under the hood. So that may be coming. I'll have to find out. But good question about Microsoft SQL Server. Thank you, Miguel. Christos is asking, when we do audits to make sure backups work, is there a way to confirm that the image? Yes, I'll be talking about that on an upcoming slide. So let's first talk about synthetic full backups, and then that should answer your question. Is that from well, it disappeared off my list. So we're gonna get to that, and I'll get to the other questions in just a bit. So let's talk about the next feature, which is synthetic full backups. Synthetic full backups have been around with us with image-based backups on certain cloud platforms in the legacy format. And if you've used them, you kind of understand what they do. For those of you that haven't used them because you weren't using compatible cloud, or you were doing mostly file folder or something like VMware backups, then the idea behind synthetic full backups is that you're running your backups with a full backup schedule. Let's say once a month, you're running a full backup. So rather than having to back up all of the data on, say, an image, which could be multiple terabytes if you have, big volumes that you're backing up every month, which can take some time, especially when your customer is upstream bandwidth limited. What we can do is run another incremental backup, which is just the changes from the previous backup, which more than likely happened the previous day. So it would be a very small backup. And then we use the intelligence, the cloud APIs that are available to tell the cloud to create the next full backup automatically using the bits and bytes that are already up in the cloud. And that results in significantly faster full backup creations. Now, many of our customers are seeing 4x speed improvements, but we're seeing even better than that with large images, especially with image-based backups. But it also helps with obviously the full backups, because as I mentioned earlier, our new backup format is a generational format, meaning it's more or less a snapshot of everything. So when you create a new full backup of your files, it's really a new copy of those files in backup storage based on whatever schedule you needed for retention purposes. So it reduces the data transfer considerably. So imagine, a 2 terabyte Windows server that changed 100 gigabytes since yesterday. Instead of uploading that 2 terabytes, you're uploading that 100 gigabytes. So you're pushing up far less data. And then there's really very little processing going on locally. We're just telling the cloud to reconstruct a new full by sending it, the correct APIs to reconstruct that automatically. Now, the other good thing about the new synthetic full backup support is that it's supported on file. It's supported on an image backup, and it's currently supported with VMware backups with Hyper-V and S3 compatible coming in the near future. But the other great advantage that it's supported on a wider variety of clouds. So it's supported with Amazon, with their Amazon S3 storage. It's supported on Wasabi. It's supported on Backblaze B2 and supported on Microsoft Azure. So you should see significantly faster full backup creation after that initial full is created. Other questions that we get from customers. Let me get through these 2 more slides, I think, and then I'll hit up Q&A a bit. Was really about backup integrity. And they were really around 2 things. The first thing here is, are all the files that I need to restore in cloud storage where they're supposed to be, and are they valid? Meaning, think of it as a CRC check. Do they check out in terms of size? And so we've added something called automatic consistency checks that happen with all of your backups. And what that does is it verifies your backup integrity to ensure that the data that needs to be in the cloud is in the cloud. So we do a check automatically before the backup. And because we're not backing up, say with a file backup, millions of individual files, we're backing up far fewer because we're grouping things into much larger archive files. There's very few objects to check. It happens very quickly, and we check it before the backup. Now, by default, we do the mandatory check, which checks the current backup generation to make sure the current backup generation can be restored. But if you want to check more than that, you want to do a full check, you can check it will not only check the current backup generation, but all the previous ones that you're keeping according to your GFS settings. And we will make sure that there are no issues. If we do detect an issue, we'll automatically run a new full backup for you, which in all likelihood would be a synthetic full, assuming we can do that, assuming something's not missing. If something's missing and we need to run a new full that can't be synthetic, we'll go ahead and do that. But the important thing is that we're doing the checks for you, at least on the current generation, with an option for you to decide if you want to check more than that. And we are triggering a new full backup to ensure that your customer or yourself, if you're using this for internal use, you can restore your data. The other thing that we're doing for image-based backups is something called restore verification, because that's also was a question from many of our customers. Well, I'm doing my image backup, and periodically we do a restore on bare metal or to a VM to make sure things can be restored, but it's very cumbersome for us to do manually. We'd like some way to do this in an integrated fashion, and that's what we've added to this new backup format, which is the option for those of you doing image backups to do what we call restore verification, which the goal of it is just to make sure that your image backups are not only there like in the previous step, but they can be restored and booted. And the way we do that is we retrieve just the necessary parts from backup storage, and we mount a Hyper-V VM. So you'll need some type of Hyper-V environment, which most of you probably have because it's included with Windows Server. And we boot it up, and we will do screenshots of the boot progress according to some schedule. You can run it on the full only. You can run it only on incremental backups. You can do a check on the full plus all incremental backups if you want to check sort of every time you do a backup. Now, the screenshot I have on the right is just from the agent, but you'll get email notifications of the verification step And the amount of data that we have to retrieve from storage is very low. In order for us to create the Hyper-V VM, we only need to restore enough to get it to boot, which might be just a few gigabytes of data, even if you're storing terabytes worth. So it happens much more quickly than having to restore an entire image backup. And it can provide you with some assurance that not only are the backups there, like we talked about in the previous step, but those image backups are bootable, which is what we all want to know. So before I head over to the next one, let me just look at Q&A because Q&A is growing. And that was answered live. That was answered live. That was answered live. You don't need to restore all the data. We answered that. We talked about local storage. We talked about SQL Server. Sorry, going through this again, forgot that. Anonymous has a more in-depth question that I'm going to save till the end. There is a weekly option in the scheduler. I'll show you. It's under, if you go under daily, I think you have to go under daily, and then you'll see all the days of the week there, and you can select any number of them. So it is there. I'll show it to you. I realize it may not be that intuitive if you haven't clicked around. I don't think we have real-time backup. I didn't think we even had real-time backup in our managed products. And I don't think real-time backup is supported with the new backup format, to answer your question, Mauricio, but I will have to check to be sure. But I'm pretty sure, I thought we didn't support real-time backup in managed, and we don't recommend it anyway. It's just far less efficient, and we've had some customers run into issues on servers in particular where there's a lot of file changes. We are recording this, so everything, well, it should be, yes, it is being recorded. And it will be posted. So if you've signed up for this webinar and missed the beginning, don't worry. You will get an email with a link, or it'll be posted to our webcast. You can watch it at your convenience. Hyper-V and S3 compatible question. What I mean by that is Hyper-V is going to be supported soon. And we have a connector option called S3 compatible. Yes, Amazon is S3 compatible. Obviously, they invented the S3 API, but it's an open API, and a lot of cloud storage vendors use that API because it provides an easier time for us vendors to write software that works with multiple clouds. So, Backblaze B2 is now S3 compatible. Wasabi's always been S3 compatible. Amazon is obviously S3 compatible. But for those of you that don't live in the United States or the EU or in Canada, and maybe don't have access to the variety of data centers that are available, or you're in a region not supported by the Amazons, Microsoft Azures, and Google Clouds, there are a lot of local cloud storage providers that provide S3 compatible storage, including Minio, which is open source software that you can use to turn your own data center into S3 compatible storage. Now, we do have a connector for Minio, but we also support S3 compatible. So if you happen to be using a cloud that's not one of our directly supported clouds that's S3 compatible, then we'll be adding support there for some of the new features. Another SQL Server question from Sarah. Now, I don't have an answer for you. I apologize. I'll have to find out. We'll have to have somebody get back to you about when SQL Server will be supported. If you want more details about the backup integrity checks, I believe they are hashes, but they may be, I'm not sure how it all works. So I don't have all the details for you. I think it's hashes. It might be file sizes and file names. It may be hashes on those clouds that support hashing objects real time. So somebody would have to get back to you, Samuel, about the actual underpinnings of the backup integrity checks. Good question, though, and we'll certainly get back to you. No, you don't need Hyper-V installed on the actual machine. There's a whole configuration section, which I can't show you here because I'm not in a Hyper-V environment, but that configuration section, you'll just have to point to a Hyper-V server on the network. So you'll need one. at your customer site, if that's where you're doing the checks, or internally somewhere, but it doesn't have to be on the same machine where you're doing the actual test. It just needs access to the Hyper-V host. Restore verification. Is it only specific to those clouds I mentioned earlier? I don't think so, Samuel, but we're going to have to get back to you to make sure it's supported on really Google Cloud and S3 compatible, which are the two outliers there. Mark has a bunch of questions about a misleading slide. I don't know which slide you're talking about, Mark. So, oh, S3 compatible, you got it. So Mark, thank you for answering your own question. You saved me the trouble. So yes, I apologize. So the S3 compatible means just those clouds that are using the S3 API that are not any of the clouds that we support directly. Kevin's asking about ransomware protection. I'll talk about the immutability when I go through the demo. And that's the best I could say. That's really about the ransomware protection. It's really about immutability. So if you missed that part of it at the beginning, or you're just looking to see where it is in the user interface, I will show that to you. Will MSP360 manage backup run as an app on NAS boxes? We used to a long time ago, but we found that between all of the operating system versions from the various vendors out there, it was hugely difficult for us to support. So, but that doesn't mean you can't back up your NASs. So if you need to back up a NAS, you just need to create a network share on your NAS using its management software. And then you can back up that NAS from, say, if it's a Windows share, then from any Windows box out there that has access to the share, presumably probably Windows Server somewhere where that has access to that NAS, it can back up the NAS as a network share, which is fully supported. So that's the way we support it right now. So let's move on and talk just a little bit about unified billing. This is something we released starting about a month or two ago, and it's been expanded. For those of you that have been with us a while, maybe you don't know about it, I want to make sure you're aware of it in case it's something that you're interested in. One of the questions we get from customers, especially new customers, and especially the smaller ones, the smaller MSPs out there, are that, you know what, they're just nervous, or they just don't have the time to do the research to figure out which cloud storage is the best for them. For those of us that have made those decisions, we may not find that decision-making process very difficult, but it requires you make a decision. It also requires that you set up a separate account with the cloud storage vendor, which is probably what everybody on this call is doing. And then you're dealing with two bills. So while we differentiate ourselves from those companies out there that sell backup services that have private cloud storage, right, which we don't particularly like because private cloud storage tends to be pretty high costs because of co-location or building private data centers. It also doesn't provide the flexibility our international customer base needs with being able to back up to a region that's either in country or at least in region to keep that data as close to home as possible. So we have access to all of the regions from all the cloud storage vendors we support, which gives us access all around the world. But they've asked for, can we get a unified bill? Is there any way for us to do that? And we introduced unified billing a couple months ago. And the whole idea behind unified billing is for those MSPs or customers that need it for internal use, it simplifies and consolidates not only your licenses for backup, but your cloud storage in a single bill from us, right? Because we work closely with these cloud storage vendors. We are very close partners with all of them. But we have set up a special deal for those customers that are interested in using MSP360 powered by AWS or MSP360 powered by Wasabi. So if you want to use our unified billing with AWS, we will sell you Amazon S3 standard storage at the standard US rate of $23 per terabyte. That means if you're in another part of the world, the EU, for example, now we're currently only supporting US and EU data centers. I know Canada's coming up soon, and we're probably going to expand the reach for the integrated billing with S3 to other regions. But right now, we're mostly in the US and the EU. Even if you're in the EU where you're paying more than 23 terabyte going directly with AWS from us, it'll be $23 per terabyte, which might be advantageous to you with currency conversion. What do we give you though on top of that? So it's S3 standard storage only, so you don't have the access to lifecycle policies and the other storage classes, but there will be no charge for any data egress. So you pull data out of S3 storage, S3 standard, there will normally be fees. We will not charge you any data egress fees or API charges. That means it's $23 per terabyte or portion thereof, because you'll get billed for whatever portion thereof. So you're paying just for the storage at a fixed price, and without worries that if you do a lot of restores, you're not going to really know what your storage costs are, and you'll get a single bill from us. Now, for those of you that like Wasabi or interested in moving to Wasabi, we also offer integrated Wasabi storage at exactly the same price you would buy it from Wasabi, which is $5.99 per terabyte or portion thereof. But unlike most accounts that are set up with Wasabi, this is not all accounts, but this is most of our customers. When you open up an account with Wasabi, there's a 90-day retention. It's not really an issue for many of our customers because you tend to keep data longer than that. But if you wanted to keep data in a Wasabi fewer than 90 days, then you would be charged an early delete fee if you deleted them. And that's really at the same price that you would pay for the data if it stayed there the 90 days. And we are offering it to our customers with only 30-day retention. Now, so that saves you the trouble of having to worry about if you only need 30 days and you're on an existing Wasabi plan, you might be paying for more. So you can pay a little bit less moving to our MSP360 powered by Wasabi. Now, at any point, if you're on these plans and you feel like you've outgrown them or you need some additional features, want to control your own account, we can help you with the data migration out of the integrated storage into your own AWS or Wasabi account. So those are available to you if you're interested. I want to talk.
Can you jump? Hey, David, can you jump back? I just want to cover a couple of quick things on the unified billing front. So a couple of questions we've been getting are, so first and foremost, the unified billing platform was actually launched in March this year with Wasabi. So we ended up with just north of about 600 customers on that platform. And with the feedback that we received from you guys about kind of looking towards AWS, we actually went to AWS and said, hey, like, in order to do this, we want to make sure that we offer something that nobody else on the planet can offer. There's not a single place where you can use AWS on a flat rate, $23 a terabyte in the world. MSP360 is the only backup and or RMM platform that's able to offer that today. And there's not any plan, to the best of my knowledge, for anybody else to be able to offer it in the near-term future. So what this does for you is, at least now, the way it sits is you get to be able to predict your storage on AWS, $23 a terabyte. When you have your data resting there, you know it's replicated with AWS best-in-class services. So while it's using S3 today, it's replicated in 3 locations. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to be, only housed in one location. With Wasabi, you get the same services that you would get with Wasabi, but as David mentioned, you get the 30-day retention. One of the questions that somebody asked was, hey, does this include the price of licenses? And the answer is no, it does not. So the license price right now, as it exists, stays the same, but you do, especially if you're on the new pricing structure, you do get the advantage of volume-based pricing across all of your licenses across the board. So in other words, we don't look at each segment of what you're buying and saying, well, you bought 25 desktops and 10 servers, so you get 5% here and 20% there. We now look at the overall total spend in our relationship, and when you get a flat discount across every license that you buy. Storage does not count into that, because what we're really doing is just kind of absorbing our cost to be able to offer it to you guys and be able to put it together on an offering that allows for you to just have it all under one bill. Pretty simple. There will be some promotions that come out in the near future that will have license incentives based on the arrangements that we are able to work on with each storage provider. Just like in the past, AWS used to offer a couple of terabyte free for a year if you were using MSP360. Wasabi did a one terabyte for a year if you were using MSP360. There'll be some other additional advantages that we'll be able to kind of pull together as we work with these guys and give you best-in-class storage partnered with best-in-class backup. But Okay, if you want to go ahead and for unified billing, I guess one of the questions Leo has is, for AWS unified billing, do you have any restrictions on data egress at all? No, we don't. I mean, you guys can push up and pull down as much as you want. The idea behind the offering that we put together with AWS was to make it the same as any of our other providers out there.
All right, good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, David, if you want to jump in from there.
Done. All right. So I was debating whether or not I'm going to head over to the demo, but I'm going to talk through these next 4 slides pretty quickly. I want to just let everybody know that we are more than just managed backup services right now. We have a much more extensive portfolio, and I want you just to know that these products exist. And if you think there's something you're interested in, you can certainly set up a demo with your account manager and learn more about them. We have 2 new products you may or may not be aware of. First is an RMM product. So if you're in the MSP space, you know what RMM is. It's remote monitoring and management software. If you're in the internal IT, you can think of it as sort of like enterprise management software, but really we use the term RMM in the MSP state. And the whole idea behind RMM is that you get to observe the behavior of all the managed devices out there that are under your control. You need to be able to install new or updated software remotely. You want to be able to perform alerting, things like remote access to a system when beyond what an agent can do when you need to get on that system. And we'll talk about that with the other product we'll be talking about, our managed remote desktop. But it also allows you as an MSP, or really for internal use, to scale and grow your business, because as you onboard new customers or as your environment grows, the complexity tends to grow. And this allows you to kind of manage the environment a little bit more easily. So the whole idea is that it improves uptime, security, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Now, we're currently offering this to customers. I'll go over the features on the next slide. Per technician per month with unlimited endpoints for $59.99 per technician. We may be running some specials, so go ahead, speak with your account manager if you're interested in finding out if there are any specials going on. These are the things we do right now. Now we have this is a brand new product in the last few months. We have a whole roadmap of things we're going to be adding over the months, over the years. If there are any features that you in particular need or you can't live without, go ahead, tell your account manager. They're going to pass that information on to me and the other product managers out there that are working for MSP360. That information will get logged. We want to know, even if the product doesn't meet your expectations about what you need to manage your environment, what's missing, because we use that information to help drive the roadmaps of the products. So what we do is we provide real-time alerts of issues like low disk and CPU or antivirus being offline. Anything that requires a change to the remote system is secured behind a required 2-factor authentication. We can pull in things like system information, your real-time performance metrics. You can see your running processes and services, manage remote desktop, which we'll be talking about on the next slide, all your installed software, running services, all that good stuff, your hard drive information. There's even a Hyper-V manager if you're on a Hyper-V host. You can view and edit the registry, execute PowerShell scripts, and if you need to do some kind of group PowerShell action, for example, when Print Nightmare was around and we were all trying to deal with that, how we're going to disable the print spoolers across all of our environment, our entire environment, to make sure that we're not caught. You could do a PowerShell script execution across an entire customer, a whole set of ad hoc selected endpoints, or just across to everyone to quickly roll out changes in your environment. So that's the first product. The second one is our remote desktop product. Remote desktop comes with the RMM product, but if you don't need the RMM product, you're using another RMM you're happy with, you're just looking for a secure remote desktop solution, our remote desktop allows you to securely access remote Windows desktops with Mac OS coming out really, really soon. I've seen the beta is already out, and it may be out in the next couple of weeks. Now you can access currently the remote Windows systems from Windows, from Mac OS, from iOS or Android. And they're designed to assist you, the MSP or internal IT teams, when you're managing large or geographically separated environments. So rather than having to head over to the particular PC, you use something like a remote desktop tool. Now, most MSPs have some type of remote desktop out there. You can use ours for interactive remote help desk. So if somebody calls up and is having trouble understanding how to use a piece of software and they're reaching out to the MSP or the help desk, you can remote in, join their session. You can also use it for unattended, management purposes when you need to get on a server and do some, patch updates or whatever you need. So as I mentioned, it is included with the RMM, but it's not required that you purchase the RMM to get this. If you just want management remote desktop, it's priced at $39.99 per. Oh, did I get that wrong? Is it $35.99? I'll check. I may have mistyped.
Actually,
it's
you can
35
do it for
right?
right now. Yeah, you could do it right now though for $24.99. And actually, just a quick note on those of you asking questions about the RMM. I don't know if you guys had a chance to hear the news today, but we actually were covered in CRN's 2021 Tech Innovator Awards, and we were the third runner-up. And just to kind of give you a little color here, this is not paid media. So this isn't something that we paid for to end up on a list. It's something that they reviewed, found, and actually came to us and said, hey, you guys are doing something fantastic. The real RMM patch management, is there a finite timeline? Dan's asking this question, and the answer is right now, we're trying to stack rank what's most important based on your feedback. And then we'll start to do more iterative releases to cover, real patch management. Right now we report that you're out, but we'll start to be able to help you do some automation. Andre asked a question about on the management desktop side, what's the big difference between us and TeamViewer? What I love about ours is I think it's better because it's all within one place. It's not another vendor. We do certified ethical hacker reviews. We actually pay Veracode to do that. We do it with every one of our releases. And what we do is we make sure that, we're about $900 cheaper because we're unlimited sessions, unlimited endpoints for the $25 a month. I mean, you can jump on it right now. Any of our account admins will give you $24.99 a month. Our account managers give you $24.99 per month per admin if you're going to do just remote desktop. If you're going to go to the RMM, you definitely want to talk to them about some of those promotions. We're pretty excited about what the buzz is about that platform, and the fact that it all uses one agent allows you to turn things on or off. So somebody asks, hey, do I need to have another agent to be able to use RMM, or do I have to have backup installed? The answer is no. And some MSPs today, what they're doing with our integrated RMM and backup is they deploy the agent, they turn on RMM, and they decide, you know what, I want to take a snapshot of this desktop. It's brand new. I want to store it up and just keep an image in case, somebody loses their laptop. They take the image, they sit down, and then they just roll it out as something happens or something changes. There are other MSPs are using it for a way to be able to do a quick assessment of their entire environment. For, right now, if you're looking at MSRP at $60, you're able to deploy our RMM at a brand new customer site, get a complete picture of exactly where all the problems are, and provide your bid. And be able to provide a reliable quote for services that you're going to have to get things fixed, and it doesn't cost you anymore. So they're using it that way as well. So there's a lot of different use cases. The sales engineers, the account managers, account executives are all here to help you and be able to kind of help you get situated in anything you really want to do with our platform. And as we continue to grow, we'll make sure that we do a better job of announcing the features and functions that are coming out.
Thank you, Brian. That was great. So you can read through the features over here, do a quick screenshot, but it's got all the basics you need. And as I mentioned, Mac OS support for remoting into a remote Mac OS system is coming very soon. So let me pop over. I realize we're getting low on time, and my apologies for that, but let me just get over to the management interface. I gotta just close some participant. Wow, a lot of people on this call. We have 107 people. That's pretty good turnout based on the registration. So everybody should be familiar with our UI. And once my Zoom window goes away and allows, Zoom, so uncompliant. All right, let's just do it this way. RMM, remote management. Am I no longer connected to the world? Sorry, everyone.
Actually, while this comes up, if you want to actually share that QR code for everybody while you're waiting for it, that way you guys can scan the QR code as a part of the presentation. It's sort of it's a way for you to be able to reference back some of the material and be able to reference a lot of the highlights and things that we've been working on over the last part of the year. And it should give you, I don't know if I can share it, David, or you have to share it itself.
I have it over here. Here, I'll just, I can't really share it while I'm trying to get on.
There you go.
And this will be on the last slide, and of course it'll be in the recording. But if you want to, while I get things situated, which probably only take me another 30 seconds, go ahead and grab your mobile phones. And then that person right below the QR code is, she's not real, she's virtual, although she looks pretty real.
She is virtual.
She can tell you all about the new backup format, but let me just see if I'm let me just 2FA myself into the system right now. Hang on. Uh-oh. I don't like seeing that, especially during my demos. All right. Let's see if my environment is back up. Okay. All right. So I have a machine over here. Let me just go full screen, and then let me add a new, let's do an image-based backup because that has most of the options. So if you haven't been creating new backups recently, you'll get a message like this when you create a new backup, especially if the format is supported by the new backup format and the legacy format. So as I mentioned, the legacy format not going anywhere. So continue to use it if you want, but we want you to use the new format. We think there are a lot of benefits there. So let's use it right now. So this is an image backup. And then I will put it in Amazon, and I'll just back up all my partitions. And then I will enable encryption because I like it and you should use it. And if you're not, you're doing it wrong. Use AES 256. I believe that's the new default. I don't see any reason to use AES 128 or 192. If you need a password hint, type one in, but I don't really think that's necessary these days because more likely than not, using some type of credentials database that's auto-generating a random alphanumeric symbol password for you anyway. But if you do need a hint in there for some reason, you can certainly type it in. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing here, consistency checks. If you want to run a full consistency check, you can enable the consistency check. That just checks the backup plans, right? Well, by default, it's doing the mandatory, but if you want to enable a full, that does all the generations enable full. I kind of don't think it should have been checked by default, but now that we notice that it was checked by default, something you should be aware of. So if you want to just do the mandatory, uncheck that and it'll do the mandatory. And it mentions that in the tooltip. Enabled means it does it all. Restore verification is for Hyper-V. Well, you will have the option to say, let's say I just want to do it on my full backups, which I'm going to run. Let's say I'm going to do them weekly. And I want to do a screenshot every 15 seconds. So while the system is, after we build the minimalist Hyper-V virtual machine and we start booting it, we will start doing screenshots every 15 seconds and they will send out. If you want to do them less frequently, you can change the interval to minutes if needed. You can also dial in the number of virtual processors and RAM you need to get things started, and also a detection period if something doesn't happen in a certain amount of time. Now, I'm not set up for Hyper-V, so I can't actually do that because it'll bark at me. So I'm going to turn that off. Now, my scheduling, let's just do some scheduling here. Somebody asked earlier, there is no weekly option. That's true. Select daily. And let's say what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my incremental backups Sunday through Friday at, say, 2 a.m. And then I'm going to execute my full backups just on Saturday, excuse me. And it'll run at the same time automatically. It'll inherit the time from the recurring incremental. And that's it, really. Now let's move on to the next one. Now, a couple of things I want to point out here. This is the new retention policy, so it looks very different than what you've been used to for either image backups or certainly for file folder backups. Let me talk about the immutability at the bottom. I'm just going to, did I select an immutable storage? Hang on. I did. Well, I must have turned off my versioning, which I shouldn't have done. Oh, I know why, because I didn't do that yet. There he goes. Okay, so I'm going to do this a little backwards. I enabled immutability, which is only enabled when using GFS, because I explained that earlier and forgot I explained that and didn't do it. In order to use immutability, you will need to create a new bucket. Now, that'll be fully supported when it's released in a couple of weeks from the management console or from the agent if you happen to be doing it from there. It needs to be a new bucket because we have to turn on object lock on the Amazon S3 side. And because of that, versioning needs to be enabled. That's not something you can do on an existing bucket. So you'll have to create a new bucket now. So once the bucket is created and you're backing up to it, the immutability option will be available for you to use, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to, just because the bucket has object lock technology turned on. So I'm going to say here, I want to keep my data for a month, right? That means any backups that are not needed for GFS, because I'm going to put in some GFS settings down at the bottom, will be deleted after a month. I'm going to keep my weekly full backups. I'm going to keep just 1 weekly backup. I'm going to keep 3 monthly backups, and I'm going to keep, say, 2 annual backups. So basically, I'm keeping data for 2 years. 2 years from now, there'll be a full backup and a 1-year-old full backup, and then the 3 most recent months of monthly backups, and then 1 backup for the weekly, and then of course all of the incrementals in between. So actually, let's just keep 4 weekly backups because that kind of fits together with keeping backups for a month, because this will remove the incremental backups that run that don't become part of this. Now, somebody asked earlier, and it's a good question, and it's worth talking about. When a new full backup is created, say through our synthetic full, does it create an actual copy of the data, or does it use the deduplicated data? It does actually create a new copy of the data. So you should just be aware of that even though the data is deduplicated, when a new full backup is created, it will piece together the new full backup based on the bits and bytes that are already in the cloud, which happens much more quickly, but it will use storage. So it's just important to know. So I realize, without going into much detail, since I'm 3 minutes over already, that this could look a little confusing. I don't want it to be. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to your account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is because you haven't been in contact with sales in a long time, I can assure you, you have one, somebody who's in charge of your account. Send an email to sales@msp360.com and ask to be put in touch with your account manager. You can also go to the public forums if you want. You can, of course, use our support if you feel like it for these types of questions. They'll be more than happy to answer it as well. So that's really it. That's kind of how it looks. Now, I want to point out one other thing, since I realize this isn't the most extensive demo, is under storage accounts. When I add an account, if you haven't noticed, because you haven't been in here a while, that the unified billing options are down here. MSP360 Wasabi and MSP360 Amazon S3. So if you did decide you wanted to turn them on, you can just click on them and create the account. You don't have to worry about security credentials because that's all handled automatically for you on our side. And as I did mention, if you do have those accounts and you decide at some point you want to migrate your MSP360 Wasabi to your own Wasabi account, we can help make that happen with the help of the folks over at Wasabi. Same with Amazon S3. So you're not stuck in our unified billing storage. You can move it out to your own account as you see fit. So you get that flexibility. So let me go back to the presentation and then go through. I'll leave this up right now, this where to go next. You can have your own unified Wasabi and regular Wasabi accounts if you choose. That is perfectly fine. I don't think we'd stop you. There are a few more questions in there. I think Anonymous, I think I answered that question when I was talking about GFS and the generations and the storage used. Do you still need to optimize uploads using 100 megabyte chunks with Backblaze? I'm not sure how the chunk size fits in with the new backup format. I would say probably leave it as is, but I think that's a good question. We'll have to get back to you with a more specific answer, and I'll do that, Andrew. So thank you for that. Thank you for the compliments, Andre, on the new setup. Anyway, try doing this in chat, but it didn't get a response. Samuel, did you have a question? Did I miss it? I don't see your question. If you headed up, get into Q&A again. If I missed your question. Dawn has a question. If we want to start using GFS now, but don't have the ability to enable immutability, you don't have to use immutability to use GFS. They're not immutability is not a requirement for GFS. GFS is a requirement for immutability. So you must be using GFS to turn on immutability. But if you don't have a need for worm style backups and you don't want to use immutability or using a cloud that doesn't support it with us yet, then you can still use GFS. You do not have to create a new bucket then. You can continue using your existing buckets if you want. But you will need to create a new bucket when you are ready to start using immutability. That will be right. You won't be able to do it otherwise. It's not like it'll error out. You just won't be able to set it up. One last question from Fred. It is not obvious, but if you leave the first option enabled, the GFS retention will not take effect. It will take effect. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but if you want to DM me a support case you opened and I can look into it, or you want somebody to get back to you, I can look you up by name if needed, if that's the name you use for the support case. I realize there may be some confusion by some, so please don't be confused and avoid using the new backup format just because you might find it confusing. Just reach out to somebody and let's get you the answers you need. And then you can make that decision about whether or not moving to it now is the right decision for you. My current legacy file licenses. So I would recommend you speak to your account manager about any pricing increases. If you're seeing a big price increase, I think that would be a discussion for your account manager. I'm not sure why it would be that, but I don't exactly know what your pricing is like. Miguel says, thank you for the nice new features. And I thank you, Miguel, for the compliment. So where to go next? You got the QR code. If you want to read more about the new backup, that's a little bit more technical, head over to the integrated help. It's available under our standalone help system, but this is where you should go for managed backup. That link, you'll need to log in to get there. Also, for same thing, if you want to learn more about our synthetic full backups, that's in a knowledge-based article. If you're interested in reading more about object lock, the immutability in Amazon S3 and how it works, head over to that Amazon documentation link that I have there. Oh, and I promised Brian I was going to change the color of these hyperlinks, and I completely forgot. So I didn't do that, Brian, but hopefully you can all read them. So RMM, if you want to learn more about our RMM product, it's right on the website. Same with remote desktop. If you want to see what Brian was talking about earlier, the CRN Tech Innovator Award finalists that just came out that were in there, that was like 48 pages of, eligible products, and we're on page 1. So we're a finalist, and we're quite excited about that because that was not sponsored. That was just out of the blue. We found out about it. If you do want a demo of any managed backup features that you haven't been using that you'd like to see, maybe you haven't been leveraging all the features in the product. If you want to see the RMM or remote desktop, request a demo. It's very easy. There's a request a demo button right on the website. There's a direct link for it. Request a demo. Tell your account manager what you want to see. They will get on the phone with you, usually with a solution architect, to demo and answer all your technical questions. And they want to do that. That's what they're there for. We want to arm you, our customers, with all the information you need to make the right decisions about what software is best for you, either internally or for your MSP. So please do that. And if you're an MSP and you haven't headed over yet to our MSP University, I would encourage you to do that. What is MSP University? Where is it? I'm going to try to get there now so I can show you.
Hey, David, are you able to drop a link into the QR code? I mean, it looks like some people are scanning it, but what's happening is they're saying that it's coming up. I'll actually drop it into the chat.
You mean the app, this one right here for the power of the new backup format?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, well, the one that the QR code goes to itself. Yep. That actually,
I mean, this should work unless somebody made a change. Oh, I just typed it into chat, but let me put it into, yeah, it's in chat. It's not hyperlinked in chat. You'll have to copy and paste it just because Zoom. But yeah, so you should have it in there now. So if that's the one you need, it's this one over here, that ugly URL, hence the QR code. So I was talking about MSP University. Find it. So MSP University is under resources, MSP University. So go there, and then there's a bunch of free stuff that we wrote for MSPs about how to do everything, like running a help desk and what's an RMM, and getting started with network monitoring. And it's not about our products, although there is some product focused stuff in there. If you are interested in about MSP business stuff, come here and read. It's all free. We wrote it for you. It's just our way to give back to the community. We love the MSP community. We love that you guys love being a community, and we wanted to give something back. So it's here for you or anybody else that's interested. You don't have to be an MSP. Clearly, there's probably a lot of articles there that would be of interest to anybody in IT. So hopefully that app.7taps.com link works. I tried it earlier and it did work, but let's try it again now.
No, it does. It works.
Okay.
I mean, I just
well, there she is.
Camera scan wasn't working, so.
Okay, got it. All right. So that's what I have. We did our Q&A. We're still on that now. Any other questions that popped in? I saw some questions show up in chat. If we move to the new backup mode, do we need to make a new plan? You have to make a new plan, but you do not have to delete everything that you have. If you have a need to keep those older backups around for a couple of years, because that's your retention requirements with your customers, keep them around. You can still restore them with the software. The legacy format's still supported. Don't get rid of them. Don't just do a bulk delete unless you're you're doing this internally and everybody says that's what you want to be doing, or your customers are aware and they don't need those backups. So keep them for as long as you need until they're no longer needed. Then you can delete them. The new backup format has been out for some time now. It's not in beta any longer. So it is production ready. So if you're referring to maybe an old forum post where it was in beta or is only available to standalone customers, then that's not the case anymore. It's available for you to start using today. All right, well, I don't think I see any. Oh, there's more Q&A. I'm going to head over to the Q&A again. And then for those of you that need to jump, I totally understand. We are 13 minutes over. We knew we had a lot of information and we knew everybody would be asking a lot of questions. So I am fine running over. Miguel says, thank you. Howard says real-time backup is referenced. I will have to get back to you, Howard, about real-time backup and the new backup format, although I suspect it may be a goner just because of some limitations around the APIs regarding real-time backup that Microsoft has. So what's the difference between Wasabi and S3? Is it worth the extra money? Well, Josh is asking that. So if you're not familiar, Amazon AWS is more than just cloud storage. It's also about platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. So you can run virtual machines, you can run platforms out there. It's a big cloud. It's the biggest cloud. It's the most popular cloud. And a part of what they offer is Amazon S3, which is not only S3 standard, it's S3 in frequent access. It's S3 one zone in frequent access. It's S3 intelligent tiering. It's S3 Glacier. It's S3 Glacier Deep Archive. They have a lot of data tiers out there that allow you to automatically move data to less expensive storage for longer term and archival purposes. That's what S3 provides. And because they're worldwide and they're a big company, they charge a little bit more for S3 standard than you might pay with somebody like Wasabi. Wasabi is equivalent to S3 standard in terms of design, meaning it's hot storage. But it comes at a much lower cost. But of course, you are limited to US, Japan, and EU regions. And if you're not in those regions, or you need something in country and they're not in your country, then it may not be a good option for you. So whether or not it's the Amazon and their S3 is a right fit for you will be something for you to decide based on the features you need. But all the cloud storage providers we support are fully supported, and we consider them good. If we didn't like any of them because we found that their services stunk, then we wouldn't support them. So I would have no concerns about you using a Wasabi if it met your price concerns. Okay, so Fred, I think I answered that live. We'll have to get back to you about that, or you'll have to let us know if you have a support case. We lost about half the audience, but half of you stuck it out an extra 15, 16 minutes. Clearly, nobody wants to go back to work or go back to bed if you're in a region where it's bedtime. But we really thank you for coming today. We're excited so many of you joined us. We're glad the turnout was great. We love you, our customers, and we want to do right by you. So be vocal with us about the things you like, but also be vocal with us about the things you don't, because if you don't tell us, we can't change them. Try the new features. If you have any questions, hit me up on the forums. I'm always monitoring them, plus along with everyone else. Let us know if you have missing features or something, you have a question about something. We are there to help you. Check out our remote desktop. Check out our RMM products if you think they might be good fits for you, and hit up your account managers and bother them about pricing, about getting quotes, about getting a demo. They want to do that. That's what they're there for. So we thank you again for coming today. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day, depending on your time zone. And we hope to see you at the next webcast.